It's Ryder Cup week, and we are very, very lucky to be joined by a European Ryder Cup hero from the Miracle at Medinah in 2012 to being the vice captain to Luke Donald in 23, Nicolas Colsaerts, the Belgian bomber, according to Wikipedia. Welcome to the Teed Up Pod.
Hello guys, what's up? Glad to be here.
It's an absolute honour to have you on, mate. I've been lucky enough to watch you live, like we spoke about before we started recording at the Lakes in 2023 when you were down here for the Aussie Open. But you've had a pretty indifferent year. Last year, where was it, at the Dunhill? You nearly won it. Tyrrell took it from you. But how's your golf going at the moment before we rip into this year's Ryder Cup and the history of it?
This year's been a little bit of everything. You mentioned Dunhill. I had pretty much planned to hang up the boots last year, and Dunhill was my actually second last event, and finished second in that. Tyrrell didn't really take it from me. I probably, gave it to him, on the back nine. When I looked at the broadcast afterwards, I realized I probably should have won by 3 or 4. But and then that changed my plans for this year, realizing that keeping my card was putting me in the position to reach, 500 tournaments on the DP World Tour. So a bit of a milestone in any career. So that kept me going this year. But I'm a little bit all over the shop, to be honest. I've been doing it for 25 years. Over the last couple of years, I've kind of had or grew this respect of guys that have done this year in, year out for, decades after another. I think it's one thing in golf that is sometimes overlooked, but guys with long careers really have my respect now.
No, you've had an incredible career, three-time winner on the DP World Tour. Like I said off the top, Ryder Cup hero. In preparation for this, I've watched a hell of a lot of your golf over the last 24 hours. And
Right.
can we go back to 2012? You were the only rookie on the European team. An away game over there at Medinah, stacked US team as usual. You get paired with Lee Westwood, who we've had on this podcast at Live Golf last year, and spending a bit of time with him. He's very laid back, dry sense of humour. Pom, great fella. Can you take us
Classic.
back? Can you take us back there, mate, to when you got picked? And I would love to sort of take everyone behind the scenes as to what it was like in the team. But what was it like for you as a young bloke? I'm guessing that was your goal to play in a Ryder Cup. But can you take us back to what it meant for you to get picked?
The Ryder Cup was a dream of mine since I first laid eyes on it in '91 in a television set in the clubhouse where I started to play the game in '91. Kiwa Island, the war on the shore. So it was quite a serious introduction. And grew up watching it in an era where we had some of the most iconic players in, Faldo, Ballesteros, Olasabal, Langer, Woosnam. I mean, the list goes on. So I used to look at these guys in total awe, and that's where the dream, started taking shape. But yeah, when you're announced that you're in the team, you realize that you're about to fulfill a childhood dream, and then quickly after that, you realize that it comes with a certain set of responsibility. You're representing a whole country. I grew up playing team sport, so I kind of ticked all the boxes that are required to really understand this competition, have the respect required to feature in it, not knowing what was going to happen that week in Medina. But the first thing is the realization you're about to fulfill the childhood dream, which is pretty cool.
Unbelievable. Not many people get to do it. And especially being here in Australia, the Ryder Cup is this mystical, amazing week for us to watch, but we don't really have a vested interest. So we don't really understand what it means for someone to get selected. Like, we can't call Cam Smith, Mark Leishman, Jason Day, Adam Scott and be like, what was it like playing a Ryder Cup? Because they don't get to do it.
Mm.
As the first Belgian, what was it like for you? Like, obviously you didn't have anyone to sort of look up to get to a Ryder Cup. So how did you motivate yourself, and how does the planning to make the team come about?
Well, I mean, coming from Belgium, I always had to go and get, sorts of inspiration elsewhere since I was really young. I mean, I played the amateur circuit when I was really young in the UK, traveling on my own, 15, 16. I mean, we're talking late 90s, so it was something really out of the box back then, staying in below average B&Bs and and all that crap and having to take taxis with the Belgian Federation's money. So I always had to do the thing on my own, pretty much. I was pretty fortunate to find or to bump into a guy that became my coach since I was 9 until my mid-30s, which learned all these steps along the way at the same pace I did. But yeah, like you said, coming from a small country with no example whatsoever, you had to go on the ground and find out, the these little piece of experience and knowledge that didn't necessarily came easy to us where we came from. But at the same time, Belgium is a multicultural country. We speak different languages, so it's always easy for me to blend in and be some sort of intracultural chameleon. I've always got along great with the Brits. I understand the nuances between, a Scot, a Brit, or an Englishman, and at the same time, I understand continentals very well. And I think that's why I ended up, marrying one of yous. I'm sorry for kidnapping one of the best things that Australia had to offer, but we're pretty happy.
No, for those at home, married Rachel, an Australian, so you've got good taste, obviously, mate. Marrying one of our
Well, yeah,
girls.
look at this. I mean, she's actually right here. I mean, look at this. Like, how can you say no to this?
You've done well, mate. Yeah, very proud, unbelievable. So you get picked. You're part of the team. You got your Sergio Garcia's, Rory McIlroy's world number one at the time. You're going to be playing against Tiger Woods. Like you didn't know you're going to be paired up to play against him, but as just playing on the European tour, so he didn't really have a heap of American experience, I guess, playing over there. But what was it like for you falling into that team, just in the back rooms? Like, how did the dynamic work? Like, there's a hell of a lot of egos in golf, but how did you go? You seem like a very down to earth, laid back unit. How did you go managing all those teammates? And, how does that common goal come together? We see that Team Europe seem to be really connected year in, year out for the Ryder Cup.
Well, you've got two types of individuals. I mean, you've got the ones like me where it comes extremely naturally because I played team sports my whole life. I mean, I played hockey until I was 17, basically, 3 or 4 months before winning my card to play on tour. And then you've got guys that are not really familiar with this team environment stuff. So, some of these guys, they don't necessarily get on board the first time they play it. It's basically up to, let's call them the barons. Back then in my generation, you're talking about Sergio, Westwood, Poulter, Garcia, that, they take you under their wing. What made me feel extremely comfortable is the fact that Poulter, Westwood, and Garcia had put their name down to play with me as a rookie. Now, don't get me wrong, I was playing extremely well that year. I was hitting the ball a mile off the tee. I was extremely accurate, and I usually, get things done. But yeah, the way that you are nurtured into the team is basically up to some of the guys that have been there before. And we saw this last time with McIntyre and Justin Rose. I mean, basically Justin Rose in his first game, carried McIntyre all the way to the 14th, 15th green where Bobby made his first birdie, and at the end of the week he ends up with 2.5 points. So you've gone from pedaling in the mud the first couple hours of your Ryder Cup, and end of the week, I mean, you are already into, let's say, the top 20 or 25 guys in history in point markers. So the role of the old school guys is key into going to a Ryder Cup week as a rookie.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, you got to play with Lee Westwood, who, like we spoke about before, former world number one of the great golf careers of all time. I guess without winning a major, I asked him this question when he's on the podcast, and I said, "How do you feel?" He goes, "Shit," but he's really proud of the career. What was it like for the pairing with Lee? The chemistry, the strategy. Obviously, you played in the foursomes. No, what did you play with him?
Play with him four balls the first
Four
day.
balls. Four balls. That's correct.
Yeah,
Friday
yeah.
afternoon.
And
Yeah.
what's funny about this is So beforehand, in the practice rounds, the plan was to make me play with somebody else. And I mean, I don't know where I did find the bottle to tell them, give me Westwood. And they were like, yeah, but the Brits they like to play together and everything. I'm like, give me Westwood. Like I knew, I had this instinct that Westwood was going to be somebody that was going to put me in the best possible place for me to perform. We have a similar sense of humor. I can read between the lines. I felt extremely at ease and comfortable with him. And I think it helped also in the years after. I remember Paul McGinley and Glen Eagles came up to me and he said that they had learned a lot about, me being vocal, even though being a rookie and not really knowing much about what you getting yourself into. I had this feeling that, that's what I wanted. And another funny story is when we got into the putting green, I got to the putting green before teeing off, ahead of Westy, and I'm on the putting green on my own. He comes along and he starts putting away from me, and I'm like, we haven't discussed about who's going to tee off first. So I walk up to him. I was like, okay, so how do we do on this first tee? And he's like, well, I mean, if you want, I'll go. I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll go first. Get it out of the way. So afterwards, I'm surprised that I was so confident into the choices I was making. You were talking about the experience of these old guys and everything, but it still shocks me that I had this confidence to go tell somebody that's played in 7 or 8 Ryder Cups, you know what, I'll go first. Just let me get in. I think it's quite remarkable. I'm still surprised today.
8 birdies, amazing round, one of the greatest debuts in
And an
Ryder
eagle.
Cup history, and an eagle. I was getting to that.
Come on.
One of the best Ryder Cup debuts
Yeah.
of all time. The crowds were hostile, screaming at you, trying to put you off. How did your first tee shot was beautiful. Carried the bunker, kicks a little bit right, middle of the fairway, lift out on the first, and then you just went absolutely nuts after that. Can you take us back to that first tee shot? They call your name. You've got Tiger Woods, Steve Stricker, Lee Westwood all watching you. Pressure's on and the crowd going off. But can you take us back into that moment?
Well, yeah, the first tee is quite unique. I mean, even though I played my first game on the afternoon, so what you do in the morning is you go up to the first tee and watch the guys tee off, and you see Furyk, Woods, McDowell hit those 2 out of 10 golf shots, and so you see those guys hitting first shots on the tee that are extremely average. So yeah, I kind of felt like I had the luxury to hit an approximate one down the first, so that made me feel extremely comfortable. But yeah, you just there's so much stuff going on this first tee. Of course, I'm playing Tiger and Stricker, so the nervousness is up to the ceiling. But when you stand over the ball, I mean, I was actually feeling okay until I came back from my last look from the fairway down to the ball, and as I came back down to the ball, like it just literally went just and everything started to shake. I was starting to see the ball blur. It was such an uncomfortable feeling. You see yourself in it 50 yards and you think like, how am I going to do this? And this is happening in half a second over the ball. And you've got all these people around the first tee that have been yelling for the last 20 minutes. It's loud. And you think, Jesus, what if I make a mess of this? And funny enough, that's where muscle memory kicks in, and you just basically close your eyes and hope for the best. And lucky enough, this thing started flying down the fairway, ended up at 100 yards or 100 meters, lob wedge, back foot, steep onto the ball, still shaking from the first tee. I mean, but yeah, everything worked out my way to ease into the round. But the first tee at the Ryder Cup is the only place where the best players in the world do feel like they've never hit a golf ball before.
Unbelievable. Like even watching it, I can feel the hostility. Like the Americans, I'm guessing I've never played golf in that position before. I think I've had 4 people watching from the clubhouse down at Lonsdale.
But that could be quite stressful too at times, when you play for club comp or the pennant in the team. I mean, the closest to Ryder Cup is the pennant. When you play for your club and you've got the other 5 guys, watching you on 18 and knowing that if you miss a 4 or 5 footer for a half on 18, you're going to hear him for the next 5 years.
Guilty. I'm guilty of all that.
I'm sorry
Um,
to hear.
how did you manage the crowds, mate? Like it's an away game. We're about to see it this year when they get to Bethpage. But how did you manage that? Golf then was different to what it is now. It was a different dynamic. There was no live golf. There was sort of no division in the world of golf. So everyone was just they were the best players in the world, best players in the world. There's not, oh, but he plays live there, he plays over there. It's like these are
Mm.
the best players from, everywhere. The crowds were off their heads. How did you manage that? And how, I guess, under Elizabeth, how did you manage, like in the team rooms, how did you guys manage to work on that behind the scenes rather than out on course? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not really much work, or at least back then, there wasn't really that much of a plan. The only thing that you're told is that, listen, it's going to be loud. When Olazabal brought me in at Glen Eagles to announce me, I was going to be in the team 3 weeks prior. He was like, I'm not sure you understand what you get yourself into. So you're told it's going to be loud. They're going to be vocal. They're going to be in your face. Uh, but then it's funny how, I was so invested in my mission and respect the honor of playing in the Ryder Cup that it didn't really bother me that much. Again, I was playing well. I was making putts, and so at the same time, like you also said, I hadn't played much in the US, so it's not like they really had a lot of ammunition against me. But I find out the next morning when I was playing with Sergio, that's where I really understood how bad some of the American fans can be. Because I mean, they're literally like 2 feet from you, and they're yelling stuff about your girlfriend or your family, or so it can be pretty bad at times. Um, Bethpage will be loud for sure. Um, but I think New York crowds is somehow manageable because they like entertainment. They used to go into sporting events, and let's not forget that I think New York crowd can actually give shit to their own, which actually is not a bad thing for us.
It is a good thing. That's amazing. Um, what about the Sunday? So I want to talk to you one more thing about the Friday match. Tiger and
Mm,
yourself pretty much made it a 2-ball. You guys were going head to head. Tiger had a putt on the 18th hole to half the match.
mm.
You two putted yours. You putted amazingly all day. I did hear Lee Westwood say that you hold the world, but from research, the greens at Medinah aren't massive. So maybe on TV the putts looked a
Yeah,
bit longer
correct.
than what they were.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's very true. It's strange also because when I did TV work at Whistling Straits, it was the first time in 10 years that I had the chance to go back to Medina. And so I walked the course on my own at 8 o'clock in the morning on the Monday night, on the Monday morning, after the Ryder Cup in Whistling Straits. And I realized that when you look at the thing on TV, it looks like I'm holding 40-footer after another. But when you walk on the greens, you realize that, hang on a minute, it's a 15-footer here, 18-footer there. Yeah, there was one or two long ones, but the rest were actually, not like putt you expect to make, but reasonable chance. So, people remember me holding everything, but at the same time, tee to green was pretty impressive too that day.
It was. It was incredible. But watching Tiger have that putt to half after you've worked your ass off, like they went one up
Mm,
after the first Tiger bird, and then you guys just was rock solid all day. What was that like
mm.
watching, possibly one of the greatest golfer of all time, at least the top two, have that under the wing and then for him to miss? What was that like standing there with Lee?
Well, it started off on the fairway. So I've made this putt on 17 to go, to stay one up with one hole to go. Uh, Westwood and we hit it on the fairway on 18, and I was with Brian, my caddy, who's also Australian, actually from Queensland, from Brisbane, and I'm like, is this guy going to take over now? And it follows by hitting this 8-iron long right of the green, absolutely dead. So I'm like, come on, I mean, it's the only time where I need this guy to step in, and he doesn't. So hit it on the green to about maybe 25, 30 feet. And at that stage, I'm just flagging it close. I mean, it comes pretty close, but I mean, it doesn't really have a realistic chance of falling. And then I then went and found Westwood on the green, and I looked at him and I was like, I don't know if I have the balls to watch this. And in typical Westwood, just turns around, looks at me, and goes, "Might as well watch it." Absolutely, like very subtle, but and Tiger just misses, and you can see. I mean, if you find the footage on YouTube, I mean, you could just tell that it's just like a sense of relief.
Yeah.
that, like you said, I mean, you're working your ass off for 5.5 hours against, arguably, the best golfer that's ever played the game, and I'm just this Belgian kid that grew up in the center of Brussels that's basically taking one of the golf giants down on my own. It would have been devastating for me, but yeah, you can see on the images, it's just this huge sense of relief that I've been able to do something like that.
Yeah, mate, it's incredible. Get your first point in the Ryder Cup, as I said off the top, one of the greatest debuts of all time. What was it like behind the scenes after that? So, you've done that, the heroics out on the course, the crowd obviously won the respect of the Americans over from that. What did Tiger say when you shook his hand? And what did Steve say? And then what was it
It,
like with the team afterwards?
two very different things. Stricker came up to me and said, "Good putting," as
Oh,
in like,
smart ass.
come on, dude, don't be sour. Uh, but Woods looked at me and went, "Great playing, man." It's actually one of the only time we spoke ever. But yeah, because there wasn't really much chit chat going on the course during the match. But yeah, when you've got the stamp of approval of one of not only golf's giants but sports giants, I mean you kind of feel pretty good about yourself.
Oh, man, I'd pay good money to have a pat on the back from Tiger Woods. Would have been incredible. In the team room after that, like, what do the boys do? Is it kind of like you're in the sheds at a hockey game post round, man of the match kind of thing, everyone getting around you? Or what was that like?
Yeah, it was. I remember the faces. I remember the eyes of people coming up to me and going like, you know, solid. That's one we will remember.
Yeah.
Of course, not knowing what Poulter was going to be the next day. I'm not saying Poulter, stole the limelight whatsoever, but yeah, when you've got Poulter, I remember Luke coming up to me at night. I was serving myself some food in the team room, and he looks at me and goes, "I heard you had fun today." Just typical pommy sense of humor, but absolutely spot on. But yeah, I remember the eyes, and it's the stamp of approval of these stalwarts of our team over decades. That is quite satisfying.
Nice. I want to talk to you about the things we don't see on TV, from a Ryder Cup perspective and from the team dynamics. Especially here in Australia, we don't really get it. The essence of it to the level you guys do.
Ah, yeah, you do. I mean, look at the Ashes and all that kind of stuff. Listen, the Ryder Cup is the Ashes for you. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same thing.
Okay. All right. But leadership styles. So, you throw all these individual sportsmen together. You guys practice on your own, every week of the year. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into this team environment. You had Oswald, McGinley, and Donald sort of leading your team. I guess Luke and yourself did it in 2023. How do they manage the team? Like, from a leadership perspective, how does that work? Like, what do they do as captains?
Well, I think there was a massive shift in modernizing the captaincy from actually 2012 Olasabal to 2014 McGinley. Olasabal was like the passion, the heart. What do we play for? The Sevi thing. So it's more, like a inner way to respect this competition. Where when McGinley came in, it became a little bit more analytical, looking at people's or players' personalities, like matchups, like who's going to work with who, and what's going to work in four balls, what's going to work in foursomes, the singles lineup. Who to put where, depending on certain personalities, how they're playing that week. So I think that we still use and still and we have learned a lot from 2014 onwards. Thomas Bjorn was an exceptionally well prepared captain. I think if you ask the guys that have been part of all these teams, I think everybody has their favorites, but I think Luke stands out. I think Thomas Bjorn stands out, and I think that Paul McGinley stands out. Not just because of the result of that week, but just because of their people's management skills, understanding of the competition, and also knowing how to get shit done. Luke was extremely good at using Eduardo Molinari's data program, and I think at the same time, then you come with an Olasabal and Bjorn and me on the side, which are a bit more people related, and have this sixth sense about feeling where players are at, and that's when you become extremely successful, when you start to put the data, the analytical part of the game. Whether you like it or not, the game has become, or every sport now in the 21st century has become very analytical. When you put the two together, you usually kind of have a good idea where you're at, what needs to be done, and usually a winning recipe.
Nice. Amazing. Vice captain. So you're the vice captain in 2023. Amazing over there, Marco Simone. This, one of the best. I loved it. One of the best sporting events I've watched. I know a few people were there on the ground watching. They said from a crowd perspective, it was super fun. What's your role as a vice captain in the locker rooms for those guys?
Well, it depends who you are. My role is different than Olosabo. My role was different than Dodo Marinari, like I just said, or Thomas Bjorn or Olosabo, where we all are different personalities. We all would approach different situations differently. Not like you're assigned certain players, but in the lead up to the Ryder Cup, you play with a few of them. I played with Ludwig a couple of times. I played with Bob McIntyre a couple of times. I ended up going out on course with Rosie and McIntyre because Bobby plays or had played that his whole life a version of field hockey that's called shinty. So him and I always got along great because we have this team sports fiber in common, and Justin Rose, we know each other 25 years. So it was very interesting to see the dynamic of those two. For example, as in like Rosie would take Bobby under his wing. You could tell that Bobby was a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning, and then you there just keep on feeding Bobby, as in like, listen, dude, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You keep knocking on the door. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But you might sound like a broken record, but you are there every step of the way. You're walking alongside them. You make sure that you're in a position when they see you, whenever they need, a face to relate to morph and to feel this sense of togetherness again. That's one of the first things they tell you when you play four balls and foursomes. You walk alongside with your partner like this. Like when you start to see players go like this, it's never really a good thing. So there's all these little things that you learn on the go, but in the end, they all make sense. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing. It's not, being a captain of the Ryder Cup or vice captain. It's basically just people's management all the time. You make sure that they're in the best position for them to perform, to serve the purpose.
Love it. That's awesome. Rory almost missed his tea time at Medinah. What was it like in the team rooms post round after he went out and did what he did?
Wow, post round, it was just laughter, but I knew nothing. So I think I was sixth in the lineup. He was playing third, if I remember correctly. So we're talking about 30, 35 minutes in difference. I had no idea, but I think they've done pretty well to keep that on the low because, again, imagine you're either warming up or you're on the course and you hear that Rory doesn't make his tee time or is just about to miss his tee time, blah blah. I mean that. I think that if that news had broken within the team, I think there's no chance that we would have came back on that Sunday. No chance.
Sunday was amazing. I want to talk. I heard you're the last player standing at the celebrations post round.
Any doubts? Come on. Any doubts?
Married an Aussie. We've got to give you some credit where credit's due, right? But what was it like winning? We saw, these days there's modern technology and all your social media, so it's accessible for us to see what it was like in 2023 on the bus where they're all singing and things. But what was it like back then in 2012 on foreign soil, rubbing it in the US faces? Must have been fun.
Why, it was absolute chaos. We didn't really, there was never really a plan to start making fun of them because it was, it happened in such a short span of time in the last 30, 45 minutes where, we all realized like it could happen to Jesus. Martin Keimer has the hole now, 8-footer after being 30 feet away. So it was just like an explosion. You're running high on adrenaline. You don't know where you are. You don't know what's happening. It's absolute chaos. I know that we started on the 18th green, then we moved over to this bridge where we started spraying everyone with champagne on this bridge. Then we were told that there was too many of us on the bridge might collapse, so we had to keep going into the locker room. Got into the locker room, and we're talking about, this is like 45 minutes to an hour of like full yelling, hugging, crying, just anything that was going through your mind, you do. You go into the locker room, the champagne's still spraying everywhere, painting the walls, and that's where there's that famous image of Olazabal in tears with Poulter and Westwood, which are the oldest guys on our team with the biggest Ryder Cup history. And at that stage, I remember just seeing these three guys together, and I was like, "Wow, what a moment in sports! What a moment in sports!" I mean, I grew up being not only a golf fan but a sports fan, and you think like, I am I am 1 foot from these three legends of Ryder Cup, absolutely crying their eyes out into each other's arms, and it's like being in a World Cup locker room when people win the World Cup. I mean, it's a space that you can't get to, and you are witnessing one of sports' greatest moments. And to me, that was probably the most incredible moment of that Sunday night before the chaos from the hotel and the team room afterwards.
That's the best part about it, mate. The fun that everyone has. 2023, obviously you're a vice captain. What was that like post celebrations as well? Absolutely dominated the US.
Also pretty solid. Everybody saw like the bus is the first thing that people saw, and the bus was pretty cool. But again, it's very difficult to describe the state that you're in, because uh, everybody is working towards the same goal. Everybody is really given their best to the same purpose, and all of a sudden it's a moment to enjoy. But yeah, there's a lot of alcohol consumed. There's a lot of not always extremely funny jokes that all of a sudden become the best jokes in the world. It's you, it's like putting kids in a school trip together. That's,
Yeah.
I think, the best way to describe it. Like anything goes, anything's funny, anybody's up for anything. And funny enough, there's always Americans coming, win or lose, the Americans tend to come in our team room. In Rome, the first guy to walk through the door was Brooks. Brooks played a little bit of golf in the US and still has, really, really good relationship with the majority of us. And so Brooks is the first one to walk in and is willing to go down. So it's great.
That's amazing. I want to talk to you about the rivalry. Obviously, there's cultural differences in team approach. There's, it seems like on paper every year the US team looks stronger. I don't know about this year though. I think Team Europe seem like they're pretty strong, but
Yeah, I was going to point out, I'm not so sure about
yeah,
this year though. Yeah.
no, not this year. What's the essence, I guess, of that from the European model versus the US model? Where do you see the strengths and weaknesses from the way they pick players, from the way that with the narrative in the media? The US, they seem to be riding like, all the way to the end. It was, is Keegan going to pick himself this year? Like, in fact, it's irrelevant. But the Europeans seem to go about it a bit quietly, go based off pure facts of people in form. Like Rasmus this year, 100% deserved a spot and qualified. And then like Nikolai got picked a couple of years ago based off, and the same as Ludwig, just based off a hope and a wish that they're going to perform. But whereas the Americans seem to be like picking the people's favourites rather than people who they think are going to drive the European team forward. Does that make sense?
I don't know. There's always a certain scenarios that got ourselves scratching our heads with what they do. Ben Griffin has had an amazing season on the PGA Tour. There is no doubt he is transformed into an extremely efficient player. Yeah, so that's a bit of a question mark. Colin Morikawa's changed caddy 4 or 5 times this year. Is that something that is a bit, well, not strange, but is that something that could add a little bit of uncomfortableness to him in the week, to who's he going to show up with, who's he going to be paired with? But that's a bit of a question mark. Let's not talk about, Scheffler, Scheffler, Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas is the heartbeat of this American team. I don't know. When I look on paper, I really like our chances. I really, really do. Most of our guys are playing really, really well. The 2 live guys on our team are very well liked and are high caliber players. Whether you like John Ram or Terrell or not, that is irrelevant to us because they are very well liked and they've always blend and gel well in our teams. But it's not just players; it's the caddies. Everybody gets along. There was this sense in Rome. There was this sense that it was really, really one big family. There was not an ounce of friction in anything. Even that situation on Saturday night with Joe LaCava and Rory shouting at Bones in the parking lot. It was actually quite funny because we were in the team room talking about the lineup, and it's five of us or six of us actually sitting in a circle like this, and I'm the only one facing the TV, and we're talking about the lineup, and I'm like, guys, have a look at this, and you see Rory on the TV screen going like this at Bones. There you go, here we go, shit's about to hit the fan. But even then, what happened on that 18 screen was a source of motivation for us, and that's where Shane Lowry becomes vocal. He's he's the locker room guy. He's the big voice. He's the team sports stereotype, 100% type guy. But yeah, when you look at both sides, I like our chances. I think we're playing well. Our big boys are playing well. Justin Rose, what is he, 44 or 45, and
Gift
still
that
firing
keeps on
all
giving.
cylinders.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
amazing. I want to talk to you about Rory McIlroy, who's transcended the game. 2012, when you were in the team with him, number one player in the world, was a different Rory to what we see now. He's now won the career slam. He's just won again the Irish last week. Career Grand Slam, Masters champion. Like, you obviously know him quite well. He's coming out to play the Australian Open, so we're really excited to see him here at Royal Melbourne on a composite course. Where they haven't 34 years since they've had an Australian Open at Royal Melbourne, which is going to be incredible. Adam Scott's never played one there. He's been a pro since before Jesus was a boy.
Oh, really? That's incredible.
Yeah,
I never knew that. Yeah,
it's just amazing.
President's Cup a couple of times, but yeah, you had a good chance at that President's Cup last time, by the way.
Did never an Aussie
and
Open.
Bottled it again. When are you guys going to win this President's Cup? Come on.
Can you get?
Come in our team room. Come with us. Let's ally forces.
You've found an Aussie. You can come across.
Yeah, listen, we know you lots support Europe when it comes to the Ryder Cup, so let us help you.
Absolutely, we do.
Message for Jeff Ogilvy. Man, Jeff knows. Jeff knows.
What's Rory like in the team environment? He seems like just such a competitor. And in the media, he gets portrayed in different ways that, none of us really know him. But we get to see the best parts, we get to see the worst parts. But as a bloke who knows him quite well and played a bit of golf with him, what's he like off course? And then playing with him on the course, like, is there anything different to what he does to the average Joe?
Rory is not any different with me that he would be meeting somebody for the first time.
Wow.
And I think that is a trait. I mean, it's, they say don't meet your heroes, right? I think in Rory McIlroy's case, you can. Right? Rory, for the position that he has, not only in the world of golf, but in the world of sports, has kept, the values. I don't think he's forgot where he's come from. He's definitely not forgot where he's come from, actually. No. And I think that's down to education. When you look at the story of the family, he has the respect of his parents for, taking, numerous jobs to allow little Rory to go and do his thing. And I think it's down to education. I can't praise him enough for how normal, he's been able to stay in the sphere that he's evolving in. Yes, there is private jets. Yes, there is mansions. Yes, there is houses. Yes,
fair play.
Yes, but I can't speak highly enough about him. And I think it's a great thing to have him play the Australian Open. You're going to get to see one of the golf greats playing one of the greatest golf courses in the world. Everybody talks about Tiger Woods playing Royal Melbourne like he plays chess around the golf course. Rory might have a little bit more attraction to take the course on a little bit, but you're going to get to see one of the best players in the history of the game playing one of the best courses in the world, period. So it's going to be great.
In one of the biggest years for him as well after the career slam and the Masters win. So it's just a great year to get him here. Can't wait, mate. And hopefully the weather turns it on. I want to do some quick fire questions with you now. I've got 5 questions and just want your best answer that you've got. So favorite Ryder Cup moment that is not your own.
Favorite Ryder Cup moment? It's well, I'll go with a friend of mine. I'm going to go with Jamie Donaldson hitting it to this on the 15th at Glen Eagles to seal it. Pretty cool.
Bang. Toughest opponent, or match play golf, toughest opponent you've ever had.
It's funny because guys with my DNA always had an issue with the grinders, the guys that get it up and down from everywhere, that don't give you any holes for free. I'm not going to cite names because it's going to be an attack at the way that they play golf, but I think we all know somebody that doesn't really look much, but you've never been able to beat.
Yeah. Out of the current crop of players playing, who's going to be a great Ryder Cup captain in, say, 10 to 15 years' time?
Well, I think the next good one will most likely be Justin Rose. Tommy Fleetwood will be pretty good, and I think ultimately Rory McIlroy would tick all these boxes.
So he'll do it for 20 years, I think, if he's allowed to. He'll be phenomenal at it as well. Best Ryder Cup captain of all time?
That's so difficult. That's so difficult because they all ticked boxes that we have a strong affiliation to. If you ask the guys from 1997, when Seve was the captain, I think he would have been the most painful captain because he wanted to hit every shot for everyone. but I think playing for Seve wouldn't have. I don't think he's the ultimate or our ultimate European Ryder Cup guy.
Nice. And what's the most underrated part of the Ryder Cup that we wouldn't see?
The underrated part of the Ryder Cup is when you're a receiving captain and you have to work 6, 8, 10, 12 months ahead about the dinners, the bus schedules, the uniforms, the gifts, the wives, the this, the that, closing down the Spanish Steps, which is down to Diane, Luke's wife. I mean, the Spanish Steps, they closed the Spanish Steps. It was the second or third time in history that the Spanish Steps were closed. I think once for Mission Impossible and something else I might forget, and us, where the girls were walking on heels like this, the steps are curved, like it could have been an absolute massacre. It could have been 10-pin bowling. I think everybody was happy that nobody went down because it could easily happen.
Amazing. What does the Ryder Cup mean to you now, as a veteran of the game and someone who's seen it from all angles? What does it mean to you now?
It means everything. It's what there is not a day that goes by. This might sound very narcissistic or whatsoever, but it's not. But you look in the mirror and you think, shit, I've actually played in the Ryder Cup, and I played in the Ryder Cup that people remember. I have people have a memory of what I've done in this Ryder Cup. Still now today, people come up to me and they say, "Wow, I watched 2012. Wow, that was amazing." The sense of making people happy is what I am extremely grateful for.
Amazing, mate. It's a great week to get you on the podcast. It's on the eve of the French Open. You're currently home, about to fly out. You won it back in 2019. So going back to somewhere you've won before. I think they've changed courses this year, I believe, from the Golf National.
So it used to be at Golf National where the Ryder Cup was in 2018, but they have to reconstruct some of the holes. Unfortunately, they're building some sort of railway at the back. So the National will never be the same ever again, unfortunately. But they are moving to a place that's called Saint-Nom-la-Bretèche, which is where the Trophée Lancôme used to be. Trophée Lancôme was a very high and respectable event, usually in September, on the outskirts of Paris. Everybody's won the Trophée Lancôme. It's a beautiful golf course with an old farm clubhouse with a beautiful putting green with flowers around it, old school tree lined. And I played in the last group at the last Trophée Lancôme 2003. I played in the last group Saturday and Sunday with Retief Goose and Paul McKinley. So that's how far back I go. 2003, I was already. But yeah, amazing to go and play at Saint-Nom-la-Bretèche again.
As a defending champion, how do you go about it for the week? Obviously, you might have to do a bit more media. You're great in the commentary box, by the way. It's when I first heard you at the LSPGA a number of years ago. Right. You did a bit of commentary. Thanks. But how do you manage that now, being still trying to compete, like second at the Dunhill last year, and then also with your media commitments on top of that?
Well, I mean, I had media commitments lined up for this year. I was supposed to do 15 weeks for the world feed, which is what you guys get in Australia.
Yeah.
And then plans changed. But so this year I think I've only done 5 or 6 events. I'm doing I think I'm doing the race to Dubai finals at the end of the year. And we'll probably do more and more of it in the future. I think I'll probably start doing a bit more recurrent next year. I've done a couple of Open Championships already. I think I've done the last 3 or 4 Open Championships.
Nice.
Did a Ryder Cup as well. And listen, the feedback's good. I love doing it. Again, you work in a team environment. You work with others. I get to share the box with Ken Brown, Alison Whitaker, which is one of yours as well.
Yep.
We love Alison. Ken Brown, Sam Torrance, Tony Johnston. I mean, we're talking about guys
Yeah.
that when I used to go and watch the Belgian Open in '89 and '91, these guys were playing. So
Yeah.
so I'm extremely fortunate to spend time with these guys and learn from them and try to give the right information. I love this game so much, and I absolutely hate when I hear stupid stuff said on TV. I think that's the main mission is to make you guys or to not teach you, but to give you information that the naked eyes can't see.
It's brilliant, mate. We love that. We love hearing, especially here in Australia and on this podcast, we talk about how much we love the DP World Tour, watching it because of the commentary. Very, very subtly funny, good senses of humor, and
At
really
times,
informative.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes, most of the time. Very, very good. So obviously you've told us what's next for you. Can you give us a prediction of a score for this year's Ryder Cup at Bethpage?
Listen, it's I always find this incredible that you have so 14 each 28 points. That's 28 points to give in that weight, and it's always incredible of how tight it gets. Even last time, I mean, the score doesn't really suggest how tight it was because in the last half an hour, 45 minutes, it still could have gone either way, and it turns out to be what 18 and a half to 11 and a half or something like that, or 18 and a half to
Yeah.
10 and a half or something like that. But um, it's a putt here, putt there, chip hold on Friday on 12 in the afternoon that makes a difference. I think it's going to be tight again. I think that this American lot is going to respect the fact that Keegan has given away the possibility of being a playing captain. I think they're going to look up at him and give their 120% for him. So I think it's going to be a tight one, but I still hope that we keep the cup.
Absolutely, mate. We'll all be going for the Europeans. We can't wait to see it. It's been an absolute honour and a privilege to have you on, mate. Been admired you from afar after watching you play in 2023 at the Lakes, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you back down under in the near future to play. Who knows? We might see you at this year's Aussie Open. It'll be a great thing to see you down here, mate. But
Yeah, that'd be nice. Australian Open, Aussie PGA, finishing off with Cathedral. I love Cathedral. Amazing event, amazing gig. Go get your tickets. I've seen they're online now. So
we'll chuck them in the show notes, mate. Everyone can grab their
exactly.
They'll be very happy with that. But yeah, Nicolas Colsaerts, thanks so much for your time, mate. It's been a real pleasure.
My pleasure.